Contact play, score 1. Score 2. Score 3. Score 4. Score 5. Score 6.
Sampling all occurrences of some behaviors is best used to analyze synchrony of behavior in a group, as well as frequencies, rates, durations, and partial sequences of behaviors. Sequence sampling is another method of collecting data continuously over time. The order of occurrences of selected behaviors is recorded. Again, this data collection method is very similar to focal and all occurrences of some behaviors. This sampling method is used to study concepts like courtship sequences or sequences of social play. In recording sequential information, all behaviors under study are recorded in the order of occurrence. With this method, you can focus on a single individual, for example, the courtship display of musk oxen. Or you might focus on the order of exchange of interactions occurring between two or more individuals. For instance, two infant elephants engaged in social play. There is no set recording interval for sequence sampling. Sampling begins when the sequence of events begins and ends when the sequence ends. For example, when two infant elephants begin and end a play session. The principal limitation of this method of data collection is learning to predict or anticipate the onset and termination of a sequence. However, with experience, you will begin to predict when specific sequences are about to occur. Ethologists often use film or videotape to record sequences of behavior. They can then review the sequences using slow motion to record more accurately and to analyze their data. Find the data sheet labeled Sequence Sampling, Musk Oxen, and familiarize yourself with the research question, ethogram, and description. Then view the following segment and record the sequence of the behaviors as per the instructions.
back up, charge, but, 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 back up, charge, male on right runs away, male on left chases.
Sequence sampling provides detailed information on the sequential patterning of behavior and can also yield information on frequencies, rates, and durations. With the three previous data collection methods, behavioral data is collected continuously over time. A second sampling strategy involves the measurement of behavior at discontinuous time intervals. Recording is done instantaneously at the end of a set time interval. A sampling strategy that measures behavior at discontinuous time intervals is called instantaneous or scan sampling. With an instantaneous sampling method, the observer records an animal's activity at preset and instantaneous time intervals, for example, every 20 seconds over an hour. Instantaneous sampling is comparable to taking a photograph every 20 seconds and recording what the animal is doing at each instant in time. This technique works best when the behaviors in your ethogram are ongoing behaviors or states, because events are, by definition, many times of short duration and could not be easily scored with this method. The intention of this data collection method is to be able to tell how an animal spends its time. This is accomplished by calculating the percentage of time spent in the various behaviors in your ethogram. To be able to account for 100% of the observation time, the behaviors in your ethogram must cover every behavior your animal exhibits. In other words, your ethogram must be exhaustive and include two categories, not visible and other, to account for 100% of your observation time. Also, as we discussed earlier, the categories in your ethogram must be mutually exclusive. By the definitions in your ethogram, your animal must exhibit one and only one behavior at the instant you sample the animal's behavior. The behaviors must be mutually exclusive so that the percentage of time spent in each behavior adds up to 100% of the animal's total time. Instantaneous sampling can be used to obtain census data or data on behavioral synchrony within a group of animals. Time spent at various locations can also be determined. Because you are recording information instantaneously, the data record cannot be detailed. If the group is small enough and can be scanned in a very short period of time, you approach a simultaneous sampling of the behavior of all individuals in your group. This technique is called scan sampling. It can be used to study subgroups, to sample daily variations in activities, and synchrony of activities. You need not be able to individually identify the members of the group with scan sampling. The percentage of time spent in various activities can be determined for an entire group using the scan sampling technique. Because scan sampling, using a check sheet, is a commonly used sampling method in zoos, two different examples of scan sampling will be presented. The first clip is on flamingos, and you will record the behaviors exhibited by a focal flamingo in a group at the instant you hear the tone. The second clip will focus on a group of pronghorn that is scanned at regular intervals, and each animal is scored as either grazing or not grazing. Review the data sheet labeled Instantaneous Sampling, Lesser Flamingos, and practice this data collection method by viewing the tape. Then review the data sheet on Scan Sampling Pronghorn, as per the instructions.
Bill fence, peck at, feeds, 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 other, feeds, other, other, feeds, other, feeds, feed, other, feed, 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 other, other, feed, other, feed, 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 other, 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 feed, 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 other, feed, feed, other, feed, 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 other, feed, 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 other, 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 feed, other, feed, feed, other, 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 feed, 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 other, feed, feed, other, 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 record other 8 times, other, 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 feed, other, 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 feed, other, 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 other.
Instantaneous scan sampling is useful when observing large groups of animals. This sample method provides information on group synchrony, as well as estimates of frequencies and rates. The final sampling strategy presented in this program deals with a modified time sampling technique. This strategy is called a modified frequency sampling, or 1-0 sampling method. With this method, the observer scores the occurrence or non-occurrence of selected behaviors within a pre-selected interval of time. For example, a 15-second interval. Each behavior is scored 0 if it did not occur during the interval. If the behavior did occur during the interval, it is scored as 1, no matter how many times it actually occurred within that interval. Another way of saying this is that regardless of the true frequency, the behavior is scored as 1 if it occurred once, twice, or a dozen times within the interval, and 0 if it did not occur. Often, the data sheet is constructed in such a way that the observer simply makes a check mark in a box indicating that a particular behavior was observed within an interval. Find the data sheet labeled 1-0 rattlesnake and look it over. Then practice this data collection method.
tongue flick, locomotion, tongue flick, stationary, tongue flick, stationary, 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 tongue flick, locomotion, locomotion, tongue flick, tongue flick, locomotion, tongue flick, stationary, stationary, tongue flick, stationary, tongue flick, stationary, locomotion, tongue flick, stationary,
One-zero sampling provides a very limited amount of useful data, but it is an easy method to use for the uninitiated observer. 1-0 scores tell you the number of intervals during which each selected behavior occurred. It does not provide you with a true frequency, rate duration, or sequence information. Thus, 1-0 scores can be misleading if not properly interpreted. This method generally provides a minimum estimate of how frequently a behavior occurs. For example, if a red panda scent marks 5 times within a 30-second interval, it is simply scored as 1, and your score for scent marking may be misleadingly low. If the panda grooms itself for 5 seconds within 4 30-second intervals, that is, he grooms for a bit, stops, grooms again, stops, grooms, stops, etc., grooming would be scored 4 times and could be misconstrued as being a high score, when in fact only 20 seconds out of 120 were actually spent grooming. This data collection method has been criticized because 1-0 scores are often treated as true frequencies of behavior, when in fact they represent frequencies of intervals. 1-0 scores are sometimes referred to as modified frequencies to differentiate them from true frequencies. Many researchers feel this is not the method of choice. However, 1-0 is very easy to use, especially if the observer is inexperienced. Also, if a number of people are collecting data, this method results in a high level of inter-observer reliability, which means that the scores between observers are consistent. Once you have chosen the sampling method that will best help you answer your research question, your next step is, of course, to actually collect your data. This is by far the most time-consuming aspect of a research project, but keep in mind that all of the time you spend collecting data will be wasted if you rush to this stage before spending adequate time at the previous stages. Typical questions at this stage are, how many hours of data should I collect? Or, over how many weeks should I collect data? There are no set answers to these questions. Again, your research question dictates the answers. In some instances, 50 hours of data would be sufficient. In other situations, 100 or 200 hours would be more appropriate. For example, to detect small differences or seasonal changes in behavior, more time is needed. You should also tabulate and graph your data on a weekly or at least monthly basis. This will allow you to get a feel for the type of results your data will produce, or allow you to refine your methods. Data collection is followed by statistical analysis of the data. Statistical tests will allow you to determine whether any differences or changes that occurred in the animals you observed are attributable to chance or whether you have detected a true change. For example, a statistical test will allow you to determine mathematically if an animal's pacing decreased significantly following the modification of its exhibit. An in-depth explanation of statistical analysis of data is beyond the scope of this program. We suggest you consult a statistician or statistical textbook at the onset and completion of your data collection. The final step is to present your findings, that is, the answer to your research question, in the form of a paper or presentation. If you intend to publish your results, your paper must be written in an established format. Each journal or professional society has a specific format and writing style they want you to use. The instructions for the format can be found either in the journal itself or by writing to the editors for information. The methods for conducting a behavioral research study have been outlined for you in this program. By conducting such a study, you may answer your original research question, and by doing so, generate new questions, completing the cycle of scientific investigation.